Diablo 4 Endgame, a topic that still has not been touched on. We are going on 2 weeks into Season 3 now, and unfortunately, we're still lacking endgame content. We are getting the gauntlet on the 13th. It's been announced. That's great. That's awesome. I feel like that really only applies to people who have been able to grind the game significantly more, streamers, YouTubers, all those things. Me, myself, who is an above average player at playing time-wise, I just got my first level 100 last Friday. It is now, I'm recording this on Monday, the 5th, and I have a feeling a lot of people are behind me. So the gauntlet coming out on the 13th, a lot of people aren't going to be able to compete and play in that for the leaderboards. Although it's great, it's something to do, I don't think it's going to be really like a content boost itself. Abattoir of Zir was something good, but came to way too late in the season, which I think turned a lot of people off. I personally myself did not even go into the Abattoir of Zir. I stopped playing by that point, moved on to other games, as a lot of people probably did. So, with all that in mind, I have an idea for Blizzard. A theory craft, if you will. I call it the Gates of Hell. And it is an endgame idea that seems... It's pretty much taking one of my favorite parts of the game and turning it into an endgame activity. So, let's get into it. So first, to touch on my favorite part of the game. And I think these end rooms in vaults are amazing. Now, personally, I don't like the traps. I think it's kind of stupid. I like that each room is different for each different vault. Copperstone and all those, they all have different layouts, which is nice. But just the density and spawning of these rooms is so much fun. Just jumping around, just trying to survive, because there's so many death explosions and there's so many elites spawned. Unfortunately, you get no XP and you get no loot really from doing this, which is probably the biggest downfall of it. But this in general is by far my favorite part of this season. I love these rooms. They are so much fun. And then going to the end where you click all the chests, as you see here, and it just rains loot everywhere. This is an absolute win, and they need more content like this. But once again, we definitely need more XP and more loot from doing them. Now, just to take another example, this is actually one of my previous runs in Season 2 on my Frozen Orb Sorcerer that I was leveling up, which eventually moved to a Blizzard Sorc. But one of these rooms just, show up in a Nightmare Dungeon, and I absolutely love it. You can see I almost die a couple of times, almost getting one shot by some of these knights. And it is just, once again, it is so much fun just running around trying to survive. You have a ton of elites, and just absolutely just brutal everywhere. Everything's dying, exploding. But as you can see, no XP and no loot being dropped from any of them. Pretty disappointing, but the room itself is such a good idea and a good concept. So let's run with it. So back to my poorly written and put down thoughts on my little notepad here. And I think it's pretty well fleshed out. And I really like the concept of it. So hopefully you guys do too. I call it the Gates of Hell. So similar to that, it's going to be one large room. Similar to the rooms with no XP drops. Wave 1, since it's endgame, you start it at level 100. The monsters in it will be level 130. And then each wave, the monster level will go up. Look at this kind of like a horde mode for, Call of Duty Zombies or, like Gears of War where you go up level by level and everything gets more difficult and you have boss waves. Kind of similar to that. So you will receive XP while playing this. So if you try jumping into it early, you will receive XP, which is a good thing. Because then if you're 90 and you want to start jumping into it, you can. But you will receive no loot during the killing. Everything will be received at the end, which I think is pretty important. Because if you're killing wave after wave and everything is dropping loot, it would get kind of chaotic pretty quick. So, potions and cooldowns will refresh at the end of each wave. Unless you choose the 3-wave option. Then they will refresh at the end of every 3 waves for the cycle. And I'll explain the options right now. So, you'll be able to choose the option on the release speed of the waves themselves. You can make it more difficult and get better rewards, which is option number 2. It has increased drops and drop rates. Good. So, first choice, 1 wave at a time. When you clear it, the next wave will spawn 1 second after the last enemy dives in that wave. Pretty straightforward. Just kill a wave, waits a second, because you don't want to wait too long. You don't want too much time period in between, especially if potions and cooldowns are refreshing. You just want wave after wave after wave. Option 2, which is the way more difficult one, waves will spawn in intervals of 4 seconds, and then it will stop every 3 waves. So wave 1 will spawn. You'll have 4 seconds to kill as much as you can. Maybe you can kill everything, but kill as much as you can. And then wave 2 will spawn at those 4 seconds. And then 4 seconds later, wave 3 will spawn. So it's possible that you don't even have everything from wave 1 killed by the time wave 3 spawns, just filling the room with mobs everywhere. And then at the 3rd wave, that's where it stops. And once everything is dead, it'll start your next cycle of 3 waves. So every 10th wave, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, which I figured going up to 50 is probably the absolute top point you can go to, which would put everything at level 180, which is very high, will spawn alone no matter what, even if you choose option 2. These will be your boss waves. At the end of beating each wave, 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50, you're done, you will get the option to either keep your cycle, where you're going 3, 3, 3, or end it. That means, say for example, you're starting out and you've already ran it a couple times and you're starting back out at 0. You can just choose 3 waves, burn through it much faster, and then once you get to the point where you know you started dying last time or you started having difficulty, put it back down to 1 wave so you're able to kind of push through it a little bit slower and take it easier. Every 3 waves is going to be an elite wave. So it's going to have increased quantity and a bunch of elites in there as well. So it's going to, like I said, I want a horde of demons coming at you with elites everywhere, just making it very difficult, especially as you get into higher waves. I want it ridiculously hard. And then every single wave is not random. They will be the same every single time. So people can start brainstorming and kind of theory crafting on best waves to get past certain waves that may be too difficult. Who knows? Maybe wave, 29 just is a bunch of corpse bows just around the entire room that just one tap everybody. It's kind of like a stat check. Or when they shoot is your chance to use any of your, so if you're a necromancer, use blood mist. Right as they spawn in and they all shoot, blood mist, throw a corpse tendrils up, pull everything in, and then kill everything. It's a way to start planning and using different strategies to beat specific waves. So everybody will play the same exact monsters on the same exact levels. Makes it nice and fair. And now that they have leaderboards coming in, something like this would be also a lot of fun to see how fast time-wise people can defeat waves and just who can push up at the highest in waves. All right, for the boss waves themselves, I already kind of have a game plan on what I think should spawn for boss waves, or just at least an example. I want the difficulty to actually be difficult. I liked in Abattoir Azir, as I said, I didn't play it, but I've watched a good amount of it. I love that it spawned 3 Bloodseekers, and it was actually quite difficult. People got one shot by the end, and you really had to run to survive sometimes. Maybe pull one of them away from the pack, kill it off, and then move back to kill the other ones. I want that difficulty. Only difference is you're trapped in a room with them, so makes it a little more hard. But I'm going to go wave by wave. So wave 10, you fight the Butcher. Pretty big stat check for most people, honestly. I mean, some classes can absolutely just burst through dungeons, no problem. But the second they run into the Butcher, you kind of get smoked. And I like that. So wave 10, the Butcher. Perfect person. I'm just going to try keeping them somewhat hidden as we scroll down. Wave 20. As I said, I loved it. This is also a very good opportunity to bring back previous bosses and previous mobs from other seasons. Bloodseekers, really good time to bring these back. They were difficult, fun to play against, kind of made you feel like you were playing other people, kind of like a PvP scenario. I like this. So, wave 20, 3 Bloodseekers. Wave 30, Son of Malphas, and 2 of the vampire bosses from Season 2. I like the vampire bosses. Similar to Bloodseekers, they were actually kind of difficult to go against, but they weren't that complicated when it came to mechanics. They had a pretty good amount of health pool, and they were really just kind of fun to play against. So, they also weren't too overpowering. So, Son of Malphas has pretty easy mechanics to fight against. Whenever I run into him into a vault or a nightmare dungeon, I'm like, oh, okay, it's Son of Malphas. It takes a while to kill sometimes, but for the most part, his damage itself is easy to dodge and easy to avoid, especially as a sword, because after you charge it, you can start slamming down, you just teleport behind him, free damage. So having him in there, along with 2 of the vampire bosses, creates kind of this effect where you would have to kill off the vampire bosses while you dodge his mechanics, and then move over to finish him off at the end. Seems like it would be a lot of fun. Now for what I think is probably the most complicated wave, but I've ever since I ran into him the first time, I've wanted to see this happen. 3 butchers. Imagine you're just peacefully cruising through a dungeon, one-tapping everything, destroying all the elites, and you run into 3 butchers, ready to clap them fucking cheeks. This would be so much fun. I just, like, that's all I can really say. It sounds so stupid, but picture just for the first time playing in this, and because nobody would know what would be spawning for boss waves, what Blizzard would choose. Nobody would know what would happen for elite waves. First time for everybody. Just picture you hit wave 40, everybody's excited, and you just have 3 butchers spawn up around you and start. You just hear the fresh meat 3 times as they all charge into you. So many people would be so mad getting chain CC'd and dying from them, but God, it would be funny. It'd be funny. It'd be awesome. So that's wave 40, which who knows if anybody would even be able to pass it. Maybe it should be wave 50, and it would just be almost impossible. But they're already going to be at such a high level at 170 by wave 40. I don't know if it would even be possible to beat this. There would have to be something like the Tears of Blood glyph to really scale up damage, or survivability to really help. But yeah, I love this concept. And for wave 50, I put Uber Astaroth. This was probably one of the best bosses from the campaign that we have never seen again. Why? They have so many unused assets from campaigns that they could throw in and have fun with, and it's just not even touched on. I feel like wave 50 would be a really good way to introduce one of the old bosses, Astaroth, or even jumping from a previous Diablo to pick a new boss or old boss to make an Uber. And that would be fun as hell. Crazy health pool where you can't get one shot like Duriel does, or Lilith at this point, and does a ton of damage. But please, for the love of God, with good mechanics. Yes. And something that you can farm. Say you've gotten all the way up to 50, and you want to farm actual Uber items and Uber uniques that have a better drop chance, that's more difficult. This would be a perfect spot for that. Because I am sick of killing Duriel. It's just boring at this point. He dies in like less than 10 seconds every single time on my sorcerer, with no difficulty whatsoever. I need a new way to farm Ubers. So, I mean, what is it without a little bit of randomness in there? Just a little bit. But not for difficulty, because as I said, it should be fair for everybody pushing up. But what if at random a wave can be lucky and spawn 10 to 20 treasure goblins? And then you're scrambling around trying to kill and hit as many as you can before they jump out into portals, and just kill all of them for extra loot. I figured this would have a very low chance, so like a 1% chance of spawning or this happening to you in a run. And for every 5 kills you get, it'll give you a guaranteed unique at the end. Let's be honest, it's easy to get uniques now at this point and farm for them. The bosses, as I said, are no challenge. This would be kind of cool. This would be fun. Good. Okay, and on to probably the most important part, is how does the loot work for this? So I have a concept on how I think it would work. Let's go over it. You get loot based off of every 3 rounds. Extra, more rewarding loot comes from completing the boss waves, which makes sense. When you complete a boss wave, you will receive a key to restart that wave. Similar to how a nightmare dungeon would work, you would get, if you beat boss wave 10, it'll give you a 10 key, boss wave 10. So, I actually have an example right here. So let's go over it. Your first run, you push to wave 34 and you die. You'll receive a key to start at wave 10, 20, and 30. If you use your 30 key and fail before reaching 40, the key is gone, same as nightmare dungeons. Then you can try using the 20 key. Say you get back up to 30 with no issues, you'll get another 30 key, meaning you can start back at 30. But now the problem is, say you lose that 30 key once again, now you lost your 20 and your 30 key. Now you would have to go back to your 10, push up, you get another 20 key, push up, you get another 30 key. Say you die again, at least you got a new key so you can keep starting. It's kind of a way to make it so you don't have to start at level 1 every single time. Now, say you get lucky and you carry a couple times, but then you die, then it'll kind of, I guess, weed out the weaker people who just got lucky and made it up, or got carried for that matter. So it's one of those things where it makes it so if you're good and you keep pushing up and you have very good gear, your end game, you'll be able to consistently go at higher tiers every single time instead of restarting. Pretty much like a time-saving mechanic, in my opinion. All right, and for the last part, well, 2 more parts. Every 10th wave you complete, you're guaranteed a unique item. I think that makes it very beneficial, because jumping up to 10 waves is pretty much the same time to kill Gregor at this point, or Varshan, or Duriel. I think it's perfectly fine to give a guaranteed unique item while completing up to wave 10. As I said, this is already you need to be level 100 to do this, so you should get rewarded for doing so. Also forgot to mention, and I don't have in here, everything will be 925. I don't see why it wouldn't. There's no reason, like at a level 90, which is probably the earliest someone would be able to jump into this, you're not going to be able to get, well, let me rephrase that. You'll already have probably a lot of 925 items from killing Duriel. It's not that hard to get. And at level 90, you can start pushing past like 70 nightmare dungeons with no issues, which also drops 900 plus item level. So this would make sense that you would just get 925. There also could be something in there that actually maybe the higher you go, max rolls stats more. So instead of worrying about, oh my god, you're at the final wave and you got something really, really good, has all the perfect stats, but they all low rolled? No. Maybe it would be better chance for higher stat rolls, which could make this more of a beneficial for end-to-end game. And it would also help you push up in waves. If you push up to wave 40 and you end up dying, but you look at all the loot, you got some upgrades to your current gear, can maybe help you push a little bit farther. Creates a little bit more progression in it. So beyond just the 10th, every 10th wave you're guaranteed, there will be an increase in unique drops in general past wave 20. Completing wave 30 plus has a higher chance for uber unique drops, and wave 50 has a 10% chance for a uber unique drop. I was even considering putting this higher. If you're able to complete wave 50, you're at the end of the game. There is nothing you can strive for more. So it would make sense that there'd be a higher chance for an uber unique. Honestly, I think it could go up to 25% and it would be fine. I'm going to actually put that in here. As I said, you're making it up to wave 50. You're done with the game. You should have uber uniques. Yeah, I agree. So, how you will receive all of this. This part I really like. A lot of this is under the assumption that we will have 1, more stash tabs, and 2, an item filter. I think that would be really, really nice, because you're going to get a lot of loot from this, is the whole process that I'm thinking, where you would get at least an entire page. By going from 1 to 50, you would get an entire page of a stash tab filled, if not more. Actually, definitely more. So I think having a loot filter where everything else you would get would maybe be like instantly just destroyed and you would get all the materials for it would be great, because right now we're also missing out on a lot of materials. What are they called? Forgotten Souls. Yeah, I'm annoyed. We need more. Hell Tides are boring. So different things like this can maybe give you more influx of those. So to the last part, there will be a special stash tab in the main hall area, pretty much like the social hub area of this, with a scrollable page. Makes it so it can fit a ton of loot into it. All of your loot for that page will be prioritized in different orders, based maybe off stats. Uniques will always be at the top. Uber uniques always the first one. Just to make it easy, you can look real quick. Say you're trying to farm Uber uniques. You can just go through it all, look real quick. Oh, didn't get any. Okay. Dismantle or destroy everything. When this is open, also your stash tabs will be open next to it. So you can sort anything you want to do. You can pull items in whichever page you want, however you want to organize. Do you. Also, you can salvage or sell anything directly from this page. Cancels out a lot of the taking it, marking it all as junk, going and selling it, doing whatever you got to do. You can do everything right from this page. But it can only hold a specific number of items, which I think is important, because I think you should be able to run this multiple times without having to deal with the loot. I think if you want to run this 3 times, 3 attempts, and then go back and be like, I'll go through my loot now, that's fine. It can store up to a specific amount where one run might not be able to fill that, and you just leave it. This is going to be the only place you can access that stash, meaning that it shouldn't have to load people's stashes. No excuse for Blizzard why they can't have something like this where it can stay there and you can just keep loading loot into it without having to touch it for a little bit. Maybe get a notification like it's getting full, you should check it, something. That's what I think. So that's my idea. Gates of Hell. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you came up with any ideas for endgame or what you think a route Blizzard should take for us, because honestly, we need something. I'm hoping with the itemization changes in Season 4, it makes the game flesh out a little bit better and run a little bit more smooth. But right now, I need something to do. I'm level 100 and I have nothing. So yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.